Hey, I'm Sarah, this is Abby, and welcome to Azul Unlimited. If you're new here, I'm a scuba instructor, and I moved into my van in 2021 after losing my dive shop in Indonesia due to shutdowns. I've been on the road diving around the US, Canada, and Mexico for the last 2 years, teaching on YouTube along the way. Before we get into the video, I just want to remind you that I have diving expeditions coming up. So if you want to go diving with me, check out the next locations on my website. I'm also teaching PADI courses, so you can reach out to me by email to arrange that, depending on where I am in the world. Let's get into the video. Today's video, I invited my friend Katt to discuss the differences and pros and cons of boat life versus van life. You may know Katt. I've done collaborations with her in the past. She has an amazing YouTube channel, so if you don't know her, make sure to check her out. And I'm gonna be really honest with you, this video is self-serving. I let my Patreon members know almost a year ago that I am very interested in sailboat life. I don't know how to sail. I have owned a boat before, but it was motored and it was for business. It's a 60-foot wooden boat, still in operation in Indonesia with Azul Komodo. But I didn't live on it. I don't know that life. So I wanted to have her on here because I feel like a lot of us that do tiny living kind of look at the different options. And for my lifestyle, being a diver and someone who's obsessed with being on the ocean, sailboat life just makes a lot of sense for me and I want to do it. Even if it's a total nightmare, I want to experience it. I want to try it. So I asked Katt some of the questions that people ask me and that I also have in my brain for making the transition to a sailboat. And we're just gonna go back and forth answering these questions. This can give you an insight to what it is to live in a tiny space as a diver, scuba or free diving, because Katt does a lot of free diving, so she's gonna cover that. Maybe it'll give you some idea of like if you wanna do this. It's not for everybody, but it's amazing. All right, so the first question is about gear and storage. And for me, I have a lot less space living in a Ford Econoline. I have gear stored literally everywhere. I'm gonna show you. Right now, I just got done teaching a rescue course in Monterey. So I have all of my gear actually still hung up. My dry suit is there. My wing is there, and actually I also have my side mount harness in here. I was diving with everything during my rescue course because I like to give my students an experience of rescuing people in different kinds of gear. If we come up here, I have my scuba masks right here next to cleaning supplies on top of my bicycle tires. So that's normal. I have my computer just hanging here. Here's a compass. There's just gear everywhere. I have my freediving fins behind my front seat. I actually have my scuba diving fins down there. But the main storage is actually this container right here. I've shown this space in previous videos. It's not nice by any means. There's no organization to it. I just put everything in there. Ukulele down. Woo-hoo. Right now, because a lot of my gear is hanging up, this isn't as full and it's not as organized. So I have my camera housing. This is a bag for my regulators, which are hung up right now. I have my tanks stacked on top of each other, and then just like a bunch of other gear. There's a set of regulators, but that's how I make it work. This build was not done by me, so it wasn't designed in a way that accommodates this kind of living because most van lifers are not scuba divers. I have seen builds that are designed for this and they have really cool like pull-out trays for all the tanks and equipment, and it's really nice, but it's also on like a totally different level of budget.
So I don't live on this boat full-time, however I do live on it week stretches at a time, and last year I did live on it for a couple months. As you can tell, we're spinning, so the light is going crazy. I forgot my microphone, so I apologize in advance for the quality of the sound because, as you guys know, boats make noise, so welcome to boat life. This is our coffin storage locker. Come have a look. It's all dark and freaky. So usually you can actually fit 2 people to sleep in here. We do have a spare mattress in case we do have any extra friends, but there's plenty of space for dive gear. It stays dry, and this is where we keep it. So currently my partner has his gun bag in here. I have my spare wetsuit. This is our friends. They have their spare dive gear, and this is generally the area we keep it. In terms of scuba tanks, we have to keep it in a different area just because here it's pretty thin wood. So we keep those under our bed. Let me take you. glimpse into the life. So down here I have, again, spare bags, and in here is currently one of our scuba tanks. So because we didn't plan to do a big dive trip, but this is where we would keep them because they're low to the center of gravity, and you don't want one side of your boat to be more away than the other. It is a sailing boat, center of gravity, to just not interrupt the sailing. And then of course I have more spare dive gear in here. We always bring at least 2 sets of everything, so just in case something breaks or gets lost. In this locker here, I keep regs. This is just the spare reg, an Aki in here, but this is where I would keep all the regs. This is the general clothing area.
Now you've seen my tanks. You may be wondering how I get them filled, and I do it like anybody else. I just take them to dive shops wherever I am. And that goes for my visual tests and hydrostatic testing. Whenever it's due, I just get it done in the town that I'm visiting. The nice thing about not having a compressor and having to visit dive shops is when I go to a new area, I can get some beta. I can get some information on the dive sites and have a better idea of where to go, how to do it, all of this stuff that is kind of challenging when you're going in blind.
To fill up tanks, what we do is my partner's dad has a compressor, so we bring our tanks over there. He also has some spare tanks that we can borrow. So we're very lucky to have a compressor available for use, but there are actually dive shops in Ailey Beach. So before departing on any of the trips, we would go up and fill them. In terms of planning our dives, this is the Bible of the Whitsundays. Let me show you. 100 magic miles. All the information we need to know about everything from tides, anchorages, the prevailing tides around the area, temperatures, managing marine parks, making sure we're eco-friendly, the type of species we could find here, the potential dangerous species. Don't pick up cone shells, guys. These will kill you. Lionfish, we just saw one yesterday on our dive. Also, don't touch. And then, of course, rockfish. That's why you always need to wear boots. We have all the different marine maps here. So we will generally pick a good anchorage, and then depending where the wind is coming from, we will pick a dive spot close to it. So this is a nice big look of the whole coastline. So we might anchor in one of these big bays and then take the tender, which is the small boat, a little bit further out to actually be able to get some diving.
This is motivating me to actually put my gear away. How do I plan my dives? I always look at the tide charts. In places that are really tide dependent, I try my best to go at slack high tide. I have been diving at slack low tide just because like schedule didn't really work out or whatever, but it's not ideal. The water column is not as high, right? So it can make entries and exits awkward. The reason why I choose slack in either case is because a lot of times I'm solo diving. And if it's a place where there are a lot of currents because there's a lot of water exchange, I don't want to put myself in risk of getting swept out to sea. I limit my risks by making smart planning choices and by diving conservatively. In other areas, waves might be the deciding factor. So I'll look at the weather forecast and see what the waves are doing and what the wind is doing, and that will be the deciding factor for where and when I go diving. As for safety precautions, I have not always been the safest. I'm not gonna lie. When I first started out doing this, I didn't have a lot of equipment to work with, but the things that I did do was let someone know that I was going diving, what my plan was, and when they should expect to hear back from me. On top of that, I give that person who's staying on land my dive insurance information. So if for whatever reason I'm not capable of giving that information, they are able to provide it. Now I have real safety equipment in my van, and I won't go into detail on that just because I did make a full video about safety in shore diving, and you can watch that. I'll link it in the description below. And that being said, as far as an emergency action plan, if something really bad were to have happened to me when I first started doing this, like I was on my own, which again is why I made so many conservative decisions when diving, because if I got swept out to sea, like I was just hoping that somebody would see me and my SMB. I can't say this enough, I do not recommend diving that way. Now that I don't have to travel on such a strict budget, I am working with more equipment and taking better decisions for myself. So like I'm planning to spend the summer on Vancouver Island and traveling around diving there hopefully diving in God's pocket. I haven't purchased it yet, but I will have some sort of personal locator beacon that's a PLB, which will, you know, play a big part in my emergency action plan.
But in terms of safety, I'm a scuba diving instructor. My two friends on board today are diving instructors, dive master, and my partner is a dive master as well. So we've all gone through the PADI safety training, but we, of course, where is it? We have an emergency EPIRB. So it's basically a GPS equipped safety device. If we ever start sinking, we grab this, we flick the switch at the top, and the surrounding areas will know where we are. So we have one on the sailboat, which stays here, and then we also have one in the tender. So in case we have engine troubles or something like that, we can still get rescued while at sea. Now, just on this trip alone, we had this outboard, which you need to like get out of the marina and maneuver around if there's not enough wind. This outboard was having issues with oil, so we had to top up. Thankfully, again, we have the phone number of my partner's dad who can help us out in terms of that. And then we also had our outboard on our tender fail. So it stopped pushing as much and we almost got stranded out there. That's why we have water on board. That's why we have the EPIRB on board, so just in case. There's also oars there, things like that. But it turned out to be a loose spark plug. So the other thing you want to do in terms of sailing and making sure you're safe, lots of books, the sailing Bible. In a lot of places there is no reception, so you want to have all the information you might need just on hand in terms of books. We were lucky we still had some reception and can call a knowledgeable person. But yeah, safety wise, we all discuss what kind of dive we're going to be doing, and then yeah, we get ready to dive and always come back on the boat a certain time. So just like you would on a commercial vessel, you set those limits for yourself so we don't leave anyone behind.
Now, let's talk about rinsing and drying gear. I have a really simple system. I have a camping shower, so it's just a 3-gallon bag. I carry some extra water, and that's literally all I do. If I'm in a place and I'm gonna be refilling tanks, I utilize the rinse tanks at the dive shops. So I'll go take my tanks to get filled and I'll dunk all of my gear and get like a real washing. As for drying, you guys already saw it. I have an accessories hanger and that's what I use to hang everything on. I also will hang stuff just on like my side mirrors, and that works really well for me. Of course, in that case, I have to be able to stay in one place for a little while. It also can't be raining outside, although you get a free rinse if it's raining. If I am dealing with a rainy day, I have this collapsible bucket, and I will put this underneath my accessories hanger and this will catch all of the dripping water. I won't lie, when everything is wet and I'm like enclosed in here, it can be a little bit claustrophobic. So it's not like the most comfortable thing, but it does work. With that, talking about water and moisture, is mold a problem? I just recently redid my ceiling and pulled down the insulation and everything and did not see any mold. I haven't taken down like this part of my insulation and build, so I don't know what's going on there, but I don't think I have a mold problem, knock on wood. There are quite a lot of van lifers that do deal with that, but I find that it comes with more complex water systems where they may have like leaks in their water lines, whereas I just don't have that. I don't have a pump in here for water. I don't have a really like complex build. Another place where van lifers have issues with mold, I've heard from several people, is actually their bed. And that's for people that have like a fixed bed in their van. And I don't know anything about that. My bed, like I'm literally pulling in and out every single day. So I guess I get a lot of airflow underneath the mattress because of that. But yeah, that's something to watch out for if you are thinking about this lifestyle.
What about mold? And unfortunately, the Whitsundays is an extremely wet place. So we try our very best to get rid of mold by running a dehumidifier in the sailboat when we're not using it. But since we are moored up at the marina, we do have power there. So sometimes we can actually bring in a little portable aircon and leave it in here once we're moored at the marina to fully dry everything out before we head out on the boat next. There's also a lot of rinsing that happens because, as you guys can imagine, salt water is extremely corrosive. Therefore, you need to rinse everything as much as you can. Luckily, it has been raining a bit, so even the deck has been rinsed. Currently put away most of my dive gear, but we still have towels drying here. This is a very bad example because whoever hung up this towel, forgot to clip it, we make sure to either double knot all of your leggings or shirts or anything, or then clip everything with a minimum of 2 to 3 pegs, because as you can see, the wind can come and snatch it away. So I'm gonna go find some pegs for this. Give me a sec.
So the next point is lifestyle. Living in a van is very different. I absolutely love being mobile. I get to move around, I get to have my home with me everywhere I go, and it's wonderful because I get to be in places like San Diego and go diving, actually be able to afford that, because I wouldn't be able to just like spend a long weekend in San Diego paying the hotel or Airbnb prices that they have in that area. I also love that I get to visit my friends and family and not be like a burden on them, right? Like I have everything I need here except for a shower. So I will go in and use their shower if that's available, but I also don't need to. Like I have a gym membership, I can go shower there. The things that I hate about this lifestyle are the city regulations and also locals that treat us like trash. It absolutely does not make sense to me that there are laws that punish people who live and sleep in their cars. And I get it, some people have had bad experiences with people that live in their vehicles, but like we're all still human beings, and I don't think that we need to be so aggressive with one another. You know what I mean? Because I dive regularly and I want to be on the coast, I end up staying in cities a lot more than I would like. So I think the hardest thing about this lifestyle is just having to like move around because of parking limitations. But do the pros outweigh the cons? For me, absolutely. I've been doing this for over 3 years now. I do not see an end in sight unless I happen to find a sailboat to move into.
Now, your biggest piece of advice I can give you if you want to go live on a sailboat is, 1, you'll have to downsize. 2, find a job that you can do that is more flexible. Work online if there's reception. But yeah, downsize. Only bring the most essential things and realize that the true beauty and value in life is being out here in the wind. Sunny, so we put up a little makeshift shade cloth that we bring our dogs on board with. If anyone has tips on what to deal with these little muffins on a boat, Sarah, you don't have that option. You can just let your little puppy dog out to take a poop in the wild. These guys, yeah, they don't poop in the ocean, and I haven't figured out how to get them to poop on the boat. So they don't like any of the grass mats, anything like that. So we're thinking real turf.
Finally, for those of you who have thought about trying van life and doing this thing, my #1 recommendation is that you try it first before investing in a van. For example, before I started looking at vans, I took like a 2 or 3 week trip sleeping out of my dad's Toyota Corolla. I went to the Point Reyes area here in California. It was so, oh my gosh, it was so great. I was working full time. Okay, so I had like my little desk, this thing back here. This pops up into a desk. You've probably seen it in some of my videos. And so I had that in the backseat of a Toyota Corolla. I was using my hotspot from my cell phone and like on all my Zoom calls and doing all my work from the backseat. I was cooking everything off of a camping stove and sleeping in that tiny car. Granted, I am 5'4", so I can make that work. But what it told me was if I can find a vehicle that I can stand up in, I'm golden. I loved it so much. I can't even describe like the freedom that I felt doing that. After so much loss with the business and everything that happened, it was like this little fire woke up in me and was like, you can have a different life. It was really powerful, even though I was like sleeping on the side of the road.
I love living on the boat because it gives me freedom to just dive every day, be out in nature and just explore the coastline in a different way than in a car. I'm not a fan of what I look like on here. I'm kidding. It's not important. But what I do not like is, well, our toilet broke today, so that's not ideal. Can you notice how much we're rocking? I get extremely seasick, so that is something I hate about being on a boat. Every day that I go sailing, I need to take seasickness medication, and that makes me extremely sleepy and not really keen to do anything. So the lack of motivation's hard because I am using quell medication. If you guys have any advice on how to not be seasick, let me know.
Okay, so that's it from me and Katt. That's your van life versus boat life comparison as divers. I hope you liked this. It's always fun to do a collaboration with somebody else, and we're doing a little video on her channel, so watch out for that. You'll see my face over there. So let me know what you think about me going into boat life in the comments. I really want to hear what you guys think about it, if you would be excited for that kind of content. Yeah, wish me good luck, because man, it is hard to find what I want in a price range that I can afford. And like I've owned a boat before. Also, I'm wrapping my brain around like how much more expensive it's gonna be to live on a sailboat versus van life. Like I didn't mention that. It's super cheap to live in a van. Like so cheap, at least the way that I do it. But I know that boat life is gonna be like, woo! Way off the charts, but that's okay. I'm preparing myself for that. Make sure to go over to Katt's channel and subscribe, because she's putting out great diving content and always pushing really strong conservation message. I think she's wonderful, and I hope to meet her one day. Maybe we'll get to hang out on a boat together.
Oh, thank you so much, Sarah, for having me in your video, and make sure to watch our other video all about women in the dive industry. I'm gonna go upstairs and read my book. Bye!
I'm probably going to share more about the sailboat buying journey with my Patreon members, so if you want to join that, you can. Or if you want to dive with me somewhere in the world, check out my expeditions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. I love you, bye! There's so much noise out here right now. I swear that I've been doing other things all day, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get to recording, and it's like everybody has come out in the neighborhood. The babies are out crying, people are doing woodwork, there's airplanes, like maybe this was happening before and I wasn't paying attention, but it feels like every time I hit the record button, it's like the neighborhood is alive and well. Oh man, I'm ready to not be in a city.